Have you ever mapped out a brilliant plan? You know exactly what you want to achieve, and yet you just can't bring yourself to actually do the work? You just stare at the wall? It's incredibly frustrating. But what if I told you it's not because you're lazy, and it's definitely not a lack of willpower? It's actually a biological trap.
Picture this. You set a massive, ambitious goal for yourself. Maybe you decide you're going to finally get fit, or write that book, or launch a side hustle. In that exact moment, you feel this massive rush of motivation. You buy the planner, you set the schedule, you are completely fired up. But fast forward a few weeks, the moment the actual work becomes predictable and routine, you completely lose interest. The drive just vanishes into thin air. Why do you destroy your own goals the very second you finally know what you're doing?
Well, in this explainer, we're going to solve 3 massive mysteries of human motivation. Why clarity actually kills your drive, why the famous pleasure chemical is a total lie, and why high achievers often crash into depression right after they win.
Part 1. The Great Dopamine Myth.
Right now, the internet is absolutely obsessed with dopamine, but almost everyone gets it fundamentally wrong. The popular myth, which mostly comes from misinterpreted rat studies from decades ago, is that dopamine is the pleasure chemical. You know the story. You eat a glazed donut, dopamine fires. You feel good, right? Well, modern neuroscience tells a totally different story. Dopamine is actually the anticipation molecule. It's the detective on the hunt. It is entirely about the thrill of the chase, not the enjoyment of the catch. It doesn't signal pleasure at all. It signals significance, and it forces you to take action. And this brings us to a really groundbreaking theory by neuroscientist Kent Berridge. It's called incentive salience. Basically, your brain has 2 completely separate systems. One system is for liking something, actually sitting back and enjoying the pleasure of it. The other system, which is much, much stronger and driven by dopamine, is for wanting something. Most people don't realize this, but you can intensely want something without actually liking it once you get it. Think about endlessly scrolling on your phone late at night. You desperately want to keep swiping, even though you aren't actually enjoying or liking the content anymore. You're just zoning out. Dopamine fuels that blind pursuit.
And this is where things get weird. To prove this, scientists set up a fascinating, honestly kind of crazy experiment. They used tiny lasers to target the exact part of a rat's brain responsible for this dopamine wanting system. Then, they put the rats in a cage with a metal rod that delivered a nasty, painful electric shock. Normally, a rat touches it once, hates the pain, learns its lesson, and never goes near it again. But when the researchers fired the laser to trigger a dopamine hit at the exact moment the rat touched the rod, the rat became fiercely addicted to shocking itself. It didn't like the pain. Its facial expressions proved it was an absolute agony. But its brain was literally hijacked to want it. Dopamine will force you to relentlessly pursue a goal regardless of whether it actually brings you any real pleasure.
Part 2. Reward prediction error explained.
This idea builds into what I like to call an algorithm of apathy, discovered by neuroscientist Wilhelm Schultz. He ran this famous experiment with monkeys. He gave them an unexpected squirt of delicious sweet juice, and their dopamine instantly spiked. Huge reward. But then he started flashing a light right before giving them the juice. Soon, the monkey's dopamine spiked at the light, but when the actual juice arrived, 0 dopamine. Why? Because the juice was fully expected. Dopamine only fires when an outcome is better or different than what you expected. So let's track the timeline of any new goal you set. Day 1 is highly novel, high dopamine. You're excited, but by day 30, the novelty is completely gone. The outcome is totally predictable, and your brain's dopamine signal just flatlines.
So this leads us to a really cruel paradox: goal clarity paralysis. You've probably been told your entire life to make your goals as clear, measurable, and predictable as possible, right? But the exact second a goal becomes fully predictable, your brain's internal model has essentially solved it. It literally suppresses the exact prediction error you need to keep your dopamine pumping. When you know exactly what to do and exactly what will happen, your brain decides it's neurochemically worthless to expend any more effort. That's exactly why you lose all your drive right in the middle of pursuing your goal. But here's the really interesting part. What happens if you actually push through that apathy? What happens when you finally cross the finish line, get that massive promotion, or hit that crazy revenue target you've been working towards for years?
Part 3. The Arrival Fallacy. You experience what psychologists call the arrival fallacy. It's that surreal feeling of standing alone in the parking garage with your cardboard box of office things after finally getting that massive promotion. And instead of feeling euphoric and on top of the world, you just feel empty. This happens because of something called the neurochemical void. Because dopamine is the molecule of anticipation, it peaks during the chase. The exact second you achieve your goal, the chase is officially over and the dopamine completely vanishes. If you don't have a stable internal foundation of self-worth, if you are relying entirely on the high of the pursuit to keep you going, you are instantly plunged into a neurochemical freefall. You don't feel happy, you just feel the heavy, crushing weight of the void.
The famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl once said that what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for some goal worthy of him. And this beautifully illustrates a much darker truth. For a lot of high achievers, relentless ambition is actually a trauma response. If your nervous system feels unsafe when things are quiet and still, you naturally use the dopamine of the struggle to outrun your own internal pain. You keep yourself busy. But when you finally win, the distraction is completely gone, and all that underlying pain rushes right back to the surface. You haven't fixed the problem, you just ran out of road. If this explainer is hitting a little close to home for you, or if you're just really enjoying these psychological insights, take a quick second to subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives. We'd love to have you. All right, let's pivot, because understanding this biological trap is only half the battle. Now let's redesign your drive.
Part 4. Redesigning your reward system.
It is time to shift your entire paradigm. You've got to stop telling yourself, I lack willpower, and realize your reward system is just completely miscalibrated right now. When you flood your brain with cheap dopamine from scrolling on your phone all day, your baseline gets so loud that normal, meaningful tasks don't even register anymore. So here are the 3 practical interventions you need to fix this. Step 1 is strategic deprivation. You need to lower your background dopamine noise by cutting out the cheap, instant gratification. Give your brain a chance to actually feel the reward of hard work again. Step 2 is effort-reward pairing. Stop rewarding yourself before you do the work. The dopamine hit needs to be linked to the effort itself. And step 3 is novelty injection. Remember that prediction error we talked about? You have to actively inject uncertainty and novelty back into your familiar routines to keep that dopamine firing.
To truly protect your dopamine baseline, you need to follow these lifestyle rules every single day. First, limit your doom scrolling. It's raising your dopamine tolerance so unnaturally high that real, everyday life is starting to feel gray and boring. Next, break your massive, distant goals into small daily sub-goals with highly uncertain outcomes, like, did I write a truly great paragraph today? Maybe. That little bit of uncertainty triggers dopamine. It keeps the chase alive in your brain. And finally, attach your internal celebrations to the actual effort you put in, not the final outcome. You want your brain to intensely crave the work itself, not just the finish line.
I want to leave you with a powerful question to really think about today. Are you building a life for the chase or for the arrival? Because if you only live for the arrival, your biology guarantees you will eventually feel empty. Motivation isn't some kind of magic, it's just biology. And now you have the blueprint to master it. If you want to dive deeper into the neuroscience behind everything we talked about today, check out the extra resources and full articles I've linked in the description below. Keep learning, keep adjusting that baseline, and I'll see you in the next explainer.